So it's Audrey, and you said a teacher made you come here? Is that what you said?
No, I could have picked from a lot of different things. I just seemed interesting. Well, I was free. Yeah.
Very cool. So Audrey, nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I have like sort of a background in this kind of thing. I did some D&D stuff in high school, but like on and off, and I've watched some stuff, but I'm not like super duper familiar with the game. And kind of I had a list of events I could choose from for a class, and this one seemed like one of the more interesting ones. So.
Cool. And this one's a great one to get started with. Kind of just introduction to what it even means to play a character. And so depending on what your interest is, if you just want to try out this type of game, role-playing in general is something that has a variety of benefits. Psychologists will use it to develop empathy. Tabletop gaming is actually used as part of prison reform strategies. There's fun research on that. But when it comes to just hanging out, having fun with friends, and getting opportunities to be silly together, developing interesting characters can be fun. And so one of the first things that any D&D, any tabletop gaming player, no matter the system, needs to do is create their own character. So I had you guys go to fastcharacter.com, and then and we'll keep going. I realized I interrupted introductions. So we had Audrey, and then say your name one more time. Morgan.
Hi, my name is Ben. I started playing Dungeons and Dragons last like August or September. I kind of got sucked into it. I play a dragonborn wizard named Tea Time. Tea Time.
Okay.
And he doesn't know anything. Like he's an academic. He spent his whole life in school. Got dragged out on this because of a family emergency, and it's been really fun, just getting to learn. Like I thought it was like a video game, and I don't like video games. I don't. But the idea that the story writes itself, like, and that each of these characters are actually like working off their own motivations, which does not necessarily transfer to the team. And sometimes it's really selfish or short-sighted, and then there's like the element of like, luck to it. So you just don't know how anything's gonna go. And so I really kind of dug in, and I want to get into dungeon mastering for some groups at some point in time.
Cool.
So yeah.
And say your name one more time.
Ben.
So we have Ben, Morgan, and Audrey. Good. And we'll get over to the other crew who I know more of, but we'll make sure they get to introduce themselves too. I'm just a big interrupter. It's all about me, and that's why I like to talk the most. I'm joking, you guys don't. Kidding. But I do hyperverbal process because I have ADHD and I play D&D, so those powers combine. And they're great shirts, AD&D, right? But just for context, since some of you don't have as much of a sense of the game, I like to describe tabletop gaming and D&D as a collaborative storytelling game. So like Ben was sharing, it is something that unfurls as you go, and it is each person is adding their own spin on some part of the story, and so it's I like to say it's not a traditional competitive game; it's a collaborative game, and so with that, it's not whether you succeed or fail; it's how epically you succeed or fail, and so it's more about telling the story of amazing awesomeness or extreme awkwardness. And so it's not so much whether you win or lose, but how epically you succeed or fail. If that's kind of why I really enjoy tabletop gaming. It also gets you out of the zone of rage quitting because you can't get past the level. Instead, you just roll in that one, you die, and then your team comes and goes and finds somebody to bring you back to life. And meanwhile, you and the game runner will have some sort of meaningful spiritual moment as you are on your way to heaven. I think that's how the game works. Death's not the end. If you fail, it's not the end. The world may end, but somehow players and games continue to go on after they've epically failed. It's kind of some of the fun of it. And so yeah. All right, so let's continue going around the room. So who else is here?
Hi, I'm Kaylee. A few semesters ago, Noella dragged me to the club. And I had played here and there with other people before, but I didn't really enjoy it. But now I go twice a week. Every week. That's so much fun. And the good thing about D&D Club is that it's just tabletop gaming club. So sometimes if you don't want to play D&D, people will bring in board games to play instead, and have another opportunity to be silly with each other.
Good. Thanks, Caleb.
My name is Mario, and I've been playing D&D since high school. I've tried to play D&D here, but mainly I go for Magic the Gathering.
And then he leaves us when our games get started to go to esports. So whatever.
Yes, we have our own video games.
We're not salty about it.
Yeah.
The D&D event to promote the esports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Yeah.
Yeah, I will leave.
Thanks, Mario.
My name's Dakota. I just started playing 3 months ago at this point, I think. Greg kind of dragged me into this.
I just taught a course. She was in my English 102 course, and I said, hey, if you're bored and you if you need some social accountability or community on campus.
Hey, you don't have friends. Come to D&D Club.
I tried to get away from that interpretation. But we do rhetoric and research on games for my English 102, so she heard about that, and I'm regularly talking about it, and so that's how some of them get here.
You have made friends, though. I have my little community group that I found.
Oh, you teach English 102?
Yes. That's usually part of my introduction, but I haven't done that yet because I was
Yeah, I need
focused
to
on
take
No,
that
that's-
for my major.
I need to take that class.
almost everyone has to take it. But moving on, so that's Dakota. We've all met Noella already, so skip.
Hi
No, just
guys,
kidding.
I'm Noella,
Bye.
and I've been playing D&D since middle school, and I tend to DM, but when I'm playing, I play a Kenku cleric named Rigor Mortis.
We love
We won't talk about his heritage right
I'm
now. It's too, well, maybe later.
heritage, so...
not going into.
We're not talking about it right now. And you are.
I'm Oliver. I've started playing a couple years, but it's been on and off because high school sucked and was really busy. I've played in the past couple, this semester and then last semester, I played Starfinder with Noella. But before that, I've really played like one game of D&D or like one campaign, and then I tried. I did like a co-op DM with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And we started a campaign, but we only got to like chapter 1 of the book because shit hit the fan.
With the group or with life or?
It's life for everyone, mostly because everyone graduated high school. No, and people were moving. Yeah, it didn't. It actually wasn't. We couldn't keep going. Like one person just moved to a completely different. Like,
Yeah.
The good thing about being in this club is usually D&D is 90% scheduling with your friends to go and do D&D. So with the club, you just show up and play, which is
Hilarious.
a struggle.
Convenient.
So, and for those who don't know me, hi, my name is Greg. Some people call me Dr. Egg because I can be a little scrambled, but I generally try and be sunny side up. And I teach English 101, 102 here, so the first year comp. I'm sorry, I know people hate writing. And then I teach technical writing. I also teach mythology, usually with the dual enrollment program with a smattering of college students on Saturdays in the spring. So those are some things. I've been club advisor for the D&D Club, Tabletop Gaming Club here for 2 years when we started it last fall. We regularly get somewhere between 15 and 30 students, anywhere from 3 to 5 tables most nights. And like they said, if somebody can't show up, then it's usually you can play with whoever's there because everybody's made it part of their regular schedule and it's always Mondays and Thursdays and all that kind of thing. As far as this workshop goes, we'll jump right in here. If you've got notes to take, I would say get something out to write some things down because it is good as we develop characters to take notes on that. So get something to write. If you have something to write with, that's a great thing to have. Usually I have a stack of character sheets and I can't seem to find my stack. I know. Boo.
Did you put them in another book?
Such a good question. I love everything about the question.
I forgot to bring my rotten tomatoes to throw at you.
Aw. I will also pass out some of these, which is a mini character decision tree. Here, Kaylee, do you want to hand those out to everyone?
Yes.
So before I'll give you this, but before we dig into any particular tabletop game, I'll introduce you to.
This. Take this back.
No, you can try and create a new character. Just make an
I want a new
NPC.
character.
Oh, so
I like rigor mortis.
yes, but you might need someone for him to kill. So come up with an NPC for me. So
can be helpful.
for those who don't know what an NPC is, it's a non-player character. It's also an insult that is not something you want to tell apparently grown men. Don't check the headlines. Not
What?
things from last year or the year before.
Wait, what?
I said don't check the headlines.
When people say
I
that,
know.
it's kind of like an introduction to be like, you should do that.
Right, but I didn't say do that. You see what I did there? So
Reverse psychology.
exactly. Google it if you want.
ADHD.
So, this is D&D specific, and it does have to do with deciding whether it's some of the class of your character, but that is a little deeper than you want to go. I give it to you, though, in case you need something to write on as a starting place. And Noella, if you wanted, you could go see if they have a big stack of pencils, because sometimes they
You don't
do.
want me here?
No, because it'll take you 30 seconds, and you told me to tell you if I needed
Where do I
anything.
go?
Just right, same place you went before, just see if they've got a stack of pencils.
That lady's
Because
gonna get
apparently I'm
irritated.
totally prepared. So,
Skip.
anyways.
Skip to it.
As we jump into characters, we have a couple things we want to think about. If you're trying to create a character for the first time, some of the easiest things people can do is just pick some of your favorite characters from your favorite books and put a spin on it. That's always an option.
Sure, Willis, you say.
But I'd like to have people answer 3 main questions generally about their character before they get into anything that might be specific to a particular game. And so this first portion can help no matter what role you're playing. So if you're a creative writer, if you want to go into film writing or screenwriting, if you're thinking about comic books, if you have any sort of creative thing that might require a character, video game narrative, these sorts of questions are great places to start. So first question is, I use the hat model. So the H is, what do they hate? The H is, what does this person hate?
What are we doing?
So the hat method is hate, adore, and trust. And so the first set of questions has to do with what do they hate and who do they hate? And the reason for that is most people will go along to get along until you trigger some deep core thing that bothers them to the nth degree. Most people, if they don't think if they're not going to spend much time with you, it takes a lot to rile them up. So what would it take to get your character out of their, like, I don't really care, I'm not really going to interject and be bothered by this person because it's just the person at the drive-thru, so why am I going to get mad at them? What would it take? Right? So what is the intense pet peeve? What do they hate or who do they hate? So in the world that you're developing or the world that you're becoming part of, is there a person or a thing or a belief that your character just hates? It also allows for you to say, well, I would never hate anything but character. Character can't stand it when people squeeze the toothpaste from the middle of the tube.
I didn't come here with any preparation.
It's
I
not-
didn't know this was going to happen, so I don't know what to do.
It's okay. You can also just choose something at random. So sometimes one of the benefits of having a dice-based game is if
Trees.
you,
They hate trees.
No,
if,
I need
if
to-
you are someone,
I need a vision of
yeah,
the character.
that's okay. No, this is how you get a vision. This is writing to discover.
This is my second part.
Pick something they hate and build
I
on
need an
it.
inspiration.
Wonderful. Thankfully, Ben had a box of them, so we're good.
Oh, well,
Thank you.
that's great.
We'll keep rolling with it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ben.
I'm
Um,
absolutely
so-
not
So,
What are we doing?
not verbal process.
What? You said it was so
I haven't done one of these workshops with so many people I already know and have banter with, so thank you for
I have
being
to make a
patient.
new character.
We apologize in advance.
So,
We both.
if you are in a state like Oliver, which is actually really great, like I don't know, and I didn't come here prepared, I didn't know I had to have anything thought, well, you can go types, you can say, someone tossed out tree, sure. But you can use a dice. Like one of the benefits of D&D is if you're not sure what your character would do, you can always roll a dice. Or roll a die. You can roll dice. Plural versus singular. So if I'm not sure, and I'm having decision fatigue because ADHD is executive function lower energy, I might say, okay, do they hate tree, an animal, a person, or a belief. And so I might go 1, 2, 3, 4, just like you saw me do. And then I would take this, what's called a D4, which is a 4-sided dice, and I would roll that. So in this case, I rolled a 4. So what did I say?
It's just like
Plant, animal, person, belief. So yeah, I said tree, but I meant like plants. Yeah. So some sort of, so I could say, do they hate a specific tree? So now I actually incorporate, if that were the case, a tree as part of the story.
Okay, who needs a pencil?
In this case, I rolled a belief, and that doesn't necessarily mean like a belief system of modern day, but I can choose something along those lines. So if we're doing Oliver, choose any belief about anything. Maybe it could be a hot take, but what's a hot take that your character doesn't like?
Cheers.
So, as me as a person, I'm like, I don't have the thing where I overthink, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like, I needed an image, I'm not like all over, I can just come up with something. So usually what I do to help me with that is I pick a noun. 3, like I threw out before, and then I build it. Okay, why do they not like trees? Maybe because they hate the forest because there's not,
Why not?
it's hard to see it, and it's claustrophobic. Oh, well, they're claustrophobic, that's another quirk that they have.
Yeah.
They don't like big spaces, so it's kind of like,
That's your pink.
then it's like, okay, what do they like pick it out and then expand.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about Kaylee's strategy for this was if you're struggling to decide, it can be a generic thing first, and then you start drilling down. So if we're looking at how to get to a meaningful, interesting character, it can start with something random, and then you can drill down deeper and flesh out like what that looks like. So in this case, you can always default to rolling a die and then seeing how that plays out. Because the story is ongoing, if you decide in the first session, like you have to roll for something like this, you're like, I'm not sure how I would treat this street vendor who's serving lizards on a stick or something. And so you roll to see if that particular type of food is something you like to eat, and it's like no. Well, then 3 sessions later, you can go, I remember my character didn't like this type of food. So when you're offered it at a banquet, now you've created tension with the person because you're like, oh no, it's disgusting. So it's almost like being like the only vegetarian at a Thanksgiving dinner or something. You know, how does that transform the story? So the hat model starts with things I hate, or people. It could be things or people that I hate, and there could be reasons. So the next question is to say why. After that are things I adore, and I only have them in that order. I usually try not to start with the negative, but I have that in the order because we talk about sometimes roles as wearing hats, and so the hat model, that's why I did this. So the hat model is things I hate, or people I hate, my character hates. People are things that my character adores. So if you want, take a moment and write something that your character really likes. For some people, they're like, I'm doing a sneaky, stealthy rogue, and so I adore money. It's like, okay, well, that's, love of money is a thing. I heard it was the root of all kinds of evil for some people, but it's very common for characters in games to want to do things. So,
Do you have me a book to write on?
a book to write on? Or a dice box?
Or anything?
Yeah, I punctured a hole.
Oh, cool.
Give me a book.
Yeah, I punctured a. I was writing on my thing and I punctured a hole.
Texture? Does anybody else need something firm to write on?
Thank you. Yeah, now I can't puncture a hole.
Okay. So we start, the hat model is starting at the core of the character. What are things that would rile them up? What are their core drives, core things that affect them emotionally? So what do they hate? What do they adore? Or who do they hate or who do they adore? And the last question in that model is, who do they trust? And anytime you're answering any of these hat questions, you always want to think about the why for this character. And you can decide if it's because of a background, or a bond, or a career they've had, or a political view they hold, or a perspective on magic or spirituality, or a bad experience they had in the market one day, or because a hunter killed their mom like Bambi.
What?
Bambi?
What?
Bailey's mom got killed by
I've
an
actually
accident.
never seen Bambi. watching Bambi.
You're kidding me.
We're watching Bambi.
We're not judging
I
Noella.
think
It's
the
okay.
last time I watched it, I was like,
No,
five.
I'm gonna make her watch it.
Greg, of all the things they could judge me for, do you think that's the one they would pick?
I think we could pick all kinds of things because
Exactly.
people can find all kinds of reasons to not like.
I'm wearing a Weezer Christmas shirt today, Greg.
That's amazing.
I'll take her.
So, if you're developing characters, it helps to start with like that as a core before you get to any particular game system, because different game systems that may play out in different ways. Some game systems like D&D or Starfinder will have traits or bonds or ideals, which are beliefs or connections you have in the world, and sometimes specific to a particular setting. So those sorts of things can anchor your characters more specifically. And the reason kind of going into the why of what I hate, what I adore, what I trust, who I trust, is important, is that it starts giving your character more than one dimension. Like someone can start any character and give it a shtick. Like my character has a funny hat, or my character is basically supposed to be the comic relief and they only tell a certain type of joke. And so that could just be the thing you do. Joker?
No, I just said joke. It's funny if it doesn't work for me.
Okay.
It's
I like it. So you could have a character that only tells jokes that don't quite work. But if you add on to that things they hate, adore, or people they trust, now you've got that kind of shtick along with something deeper, and you can start seeing a character arc or growth. And in any story, no matter what the genre, whether it's tabletop gaming or not, that it is meaningful to the story that there is some sort of promise about the character and who they're becoming. And so if we see that they are very passionate about something in the beginning, that plays into our the purpose of the character and the trajectory that they're on in the game. And so we might be able to establish kind of a subtle promise about who we're trying to see them become. And whether that's they're vengeful at first, but they learn forgiveness along the way, whether it's they're lonely at first and they learn through, they learn to find community, or whether it's they trusted someone they shouldn't have and they learn that they're a bad guy along the way, but that makes them better at discerning people's motives long term. Like those sorts of journeys are what make characters meaningful, no matter what genre you're writing them for, no matter whether it is tabletop gaming or some other venue or genre. Yeah.
I picked
Good.
a character who usually I go with characters that are more similar than me, so like dumb and goofy. But this time I wanted to do something maybe a little bit different, maybe like a facet of myself that I don't usually like show people or like act on. So I did somebody who's like moody and apathetic.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, what would they hate if they're moody and apathetic? People who care too much and dogs. Because
Nice.
dogs are too energetic or happy for them.
Dogs.
But they would like crows or ravens who are more chill
Or
out.
and is there a distinction between a dog versus like an ambush drake, which is like a dragon dog in D&D with scales and stuff?
So it's
Just
more
the-
of like the temperament of a dog.
So
They especially hate dogs, but like people who have that temperament.
so it's almost like excessive loyalty could be a problem
Yeah.
because they might personify that. Okay, good. So we can think about these questions, and we don't have to answer them yet. But that is the hat model. The idea of the metaphor of the hat again is that you are as you change roles, you're putting on different hats, and so being able to identify what that hat symbolizes, the things they hate, the things they adore, and the people they trust. Those sorts of things are core, no matter what type of abilities in game that they have, or what setting they're in. So the next thing that usually happens in a D&D campaign is you have to decide the actual character class. This ends up feeling like it's a really big decision, but I'll say like if you pick a wrong class and you're playing a couple sessions, most a good dungeon mastering and most good dungeon masters who do it well will listen to, and players will be like, this isn't really what I was going for. Like I'm not getting to use this character the way I want to. I thought this class was something else. I've had someone who chose a monk because they were thinking like a Catholic monk religious person, and so they meant to be a cleric, but they ended up doing all these martial arts like Bruce Lee style, because they didn't understand the difference. And so a couple sessions in, there was talk about, do I want to change character class to fit what I actually was envisioning? And that's, so you can choose class, and then you can also talk to your DM if you're playing, your dungeon master or game master. You can talk to them about shifting that if it doesn't quite fit. But if you do check that handy dandy decision tree there, the top portion is, so the first question is, do you see yourself using magic or relying on physical abilities? And if it's magic, use the top one. And if it's no magic, you can use the bottom one. That's more of the muggle, but they have other fancy things that can go on. So I would say just take a moment and walk through the decision tree and see kind of where you're landing for this person's, for the hat you're wearing right now. It can help to do circles around the decisions as you make them, if you're just kind of following it like an activity.
What exactly is arcane magic?
Arcane magic is the kind that a wizard might use. So that's like where your book learning happens, like that kind of magic. Good question.
That's what I was
That is kind of a
thinking, but based
specialized.
off of how it was like, it was the like how it was written, like the next question following it.
Yeah.
But like I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so arcane has to do with the kinds that are usually more connected to like traditional magic, wizards, sorcerers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Good job. And so these questions, and you can work through them as you see fit. If you're not there yet, that's fine. But these questions are really about what you want to see your character do. So it's kind of like, how do you want your character to win the day? What types of awesome abilities are you leaning toward? So if you're like, I definitely want there to be sparkly energy from their hands, like that's definitely more of a magic thing. And then you can decide whether that magic source is book learning and learning the incantations of spells, or whether that magic source is from some sort of deity or otherworldly power. And each of those can change what it looks like when they succeed or fail, right? So think about if someone is using a magical ability and their goal is to try and heal somebody. We might think of the Wheel of Time. Who here's seen the Wheel of Time series yet? Okay, one. Fine. We might think about someone who uses a magic ability to heal, and if they roll high or their spell works well, you can imagine, what would you say that person, if they're book learned, what does magical healing look like? It might be a sequence of steps. It might be following a specific procedure. So then if they fail, then the story arc might say they failed because they didn't, if they got a nat 1 instead of a nat 20, if they failed their spell and couldn't heal, it could be because they didn't know the procedure well enough. Almost like similar to using magic, but like a doctor who missed a step or forgot to, lost a watch, right? Sad. That's different than, say, someone who has a spiritual connection to a divine being, and they succeed at healing, and that draws them closer to their God, or they fail at healing, and then it leads them to question, like, well, was it me who failed or my God who failed? And now there's different story tension for the character depending on what you choose. Does that make sense? So again, it becomes a lot more about the how than the what. It's like especially when we're talking story, the how becomes the fun part. Like a lot of us, especially if we're story oriented, we watch TV, we watch movies, we read books, whatever it is. If we're watching a show and we're pretty good at tracking plot lines, we'll go, oh, okay, I think that person's the bad guy, this person's gonna end up dead, this person's the hero, and we kind of block them into their archetypes fairly quickly. And so then the question isn't so much whether that person's the actual murderer or the bad guy or the hero or whatever. It becomes, how does that present itself? How does the story get told? And so that becomes the fun part, even for people who can predict the ending. What's the unique flavoring of this story? Cool. Did you guys, so were you able to get very far on the decision tree? Do you have a sense of what type of class you want? Okay. And then we would go, if you've got the class, another part of D&D has to do with playable species or races. And so they are constantly expanding. But if you think of the game started out being reflective of like Lord of the Rings, so you have the traditional elves, humans, dwarves, hobbits, which in this game are called halflings, so that they didn't get in trouble for. There was like a legal case in the 1970s where J.R.R. Tolkien's Hobbit couldn't be used because it was like a trademarked thing for him somehow. So that's always fun.
Ordinance.
And it's like treat people. What was that?
It was the name of Pokemon.
Yeah. So, and now, like, it's always good to check, but titles of books can't be copywritten. But in that case, it was a meaningful thing. So D&D went with halfling instead. And then, depending on the fantasy worlds you're in, and depending on which version of the game, like, they continue to expand what you can play as a character. Noella earlier said she played a Kenku, but who knows what that is? Okay, a Kenku is a bird. And in D&D, it's like a 5-foot bird, usually raven-esque, like a black feathered bird. And they've been cursed to not be able to fly. The only way they can talk is by mimicking any other sound they make. So they can mimic sounds perfectly. They've got this special ability, mimicry. But they can. So playing them means you kind of have to say how they're saying it is really important. So you might, sometimes when I play a Kenku, a bird that can't have their own voice but only mimic others, like I'm cycling through little snippets that they might have heard in their life. So if that Kenku has had a history of abuse from a master, you might hear the gruff, scary master. If they've had really sweet friends, who are always like really affirming, well, then they might try and say that. And if they don't have language for an insult because all their friends were nice, it could come out as a sarcastic version of something their friend said once. And so there are all these different playable races, and the games continue to add. So we can think about, well, what do I want my character to look like? And that is one of the next questions. So if you're writing it down as a list of things, the next question is, what does my character look like? What does my character sound like? So those are two questions after hat. When I'm putting on this hat, how do I transform? What does my character look like? What does my character sound like?
I've already gone to drawing them. So
Cool.
we're already
Yeah,
started.
if you want to draw it, that's a great thing to do. Character art is a great way to kind of think through and give you food for descriptive language.
It's going to limit what you're able to draw. But,
And sometimes when you're thinking about it, you can think about their playable race, and you can think about if they have any specific artifacts that they identify with. So, since I can ask you guys later, Morgan or Audrey, do either you want to share what you're kind of thinking of right now? What do you got?
So my character started off with the hate. I kind of wanted to make a character that was kind of very much obsessed with like justice and ideals of like what that could mean for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of said they hate those who harm others, but at the same time I wanted them to be kind of not a super serious character. So I said that they would hate indecisiveness because they're always jumping into things. They would hate realists because they're always dreaming about something greater and greater than what's
Bigger
happening.
ideal. Yeah.
Then when I said that they adored, it was kind of just like the inverse of a lot of those, but I also wanted them to really not be about the destination of the journey. So they like getting sidetracked about things.
So they like having a big vision for the end as long as I can live today with
Yeah.
fun.
And then I said anyone displaying a positive trait because they're supposed to be kind of naive. That ties into their class because I basically described it as they think they're a paladin, but they're actually a fiend warlock because they contracted with some sort of infernal being by complete accident and naivete.
Gotcha. So they think they have a spiritual connection, and it is spiritual-ish, but it's a dark spirit, right? A demon. So that's always exciting. So then that creates tension in the character, And so how it reveals itself becomes the really interesting part, because it could take a couple sessions before other characters might get clued into, like, the powers you're using don't feel like paladin powers. Wait, you don't have lay on hands or something, that kind of thing. Or your energy feels really kind of dark. Are you sure? Or they hear the name of the patron and do a history check, and it gets revealed that way. Yeah. Audrey, where are you kind of, did I say that right? Audrey?
Yeah.
Okay, just, my brain was spaced for a minute. Okay.
Everything I have is very surface level.
That's okay. You're starting. You've had literally 30 minutes or less, and I've been talking, so.
I don't.
Wait, are you about to make the argument that STEM majors aren't creative?
No, I just mean me personally.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
So my hate, what was monkeys?
I hate monkeys. Okay.
Yes.
Or was stealing my bananas.
What? No, they're just terrifying and very loud. I will never go to a place.
This is a great place to start. Yeah. Okay.
I said overly loud people, which carries over from monkeys. So just in general, excess noise.
Okay.
Is what got turned into.
Nice.
A door, I put bugs, and then I put in parentheses, the specific situation presents itself where bugs are being eaten as a last ditch effort for sustenance. And I even opt out. So
Okay. That's good to know.
let's see.
Or if a fly accidentally lands in your character's soup, like what? Or a friend's soup. Like, do you go like, no, and like knock the soup off the table? It's like, I paid good coin for that. It's like, maybe that might be an extreme reaction, but
Food for the door, whether intentional or accidental. Trust, I put older women.
Okay.
Because they're not.
nice. So then that puts us in a place where if we one of the campaigns we're running, there is an older female mentor who tries to get the players to do some things for her. And in this case, she's actually Baba Yaga, which is like a creepy old lady from Slavic mythology. And so your character might be like, yes, and then, wait, you want me to go let you eat the goblin children? And while other players are saying, yeah, they're just goblins, no big deal.
Hey, I played this.
So we have this streamed if you want to go look at it. But the alternative is like, okay, is that it could be leaned into by the DM like that, or it could be leaned in like you get to go rescue an old lady who's being attacked by werewolves, or what was the thing or monkey bandits, monkey people. I don't know. There's some yes. So good. Thanks for sharing both of those things. As far as the STEM thing goes, we did do an interview with Donna Viola in Viola. I said no wait. Which one's the pronunciation for the instrument?
Viola.
So Donna Viola in astronomy, like she talked with us, and so we have we streamed that if you want to go find it on the YouTube channel, where we talked about the crossover between science and science fiction. We talked about wormholes in romance, and it was fun.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was fun.
I mean,
So-
yeah.
Okay, we got about 25 minutes left. Okay, so here's the next part. So I said, so we've got the hat model. So when we role play, we're putting on hats for specific characters. They have things they hate, people they hate, things they adore, people they adore, and people they trust. And you can love someone without trusting them, which is fun. And you can hate someone and still trust them, right? Somehow, like you hate how they act, right? But you trust in certain circumstances a certain way. So it could be fun to create some tensions. So we have the hat model. We also say we also want to know like what specific to the setting or the type of game you're playing they're going to do. So their character class. You can talk about the character race or species, and that leads us into questions about what they look like and what they sound like. And so here's where we start getting into actually tabletop role playing. This is where we start getting into questions of, well, how do we embody that character? How do we vocalize them, and how do we physically embody that character? And so, so think about and if you're writing stuff down, try and write down two mannerisms, like physical things your character would do that you would describe first. So this character you're creating based on what they hate, adore, love, like if they get angry, how do they do that? If they're nervous, what does that look like for them? So what's the physicality? What's their presence look like?
Or if they have an accent.
No, we're not there yet. Just physicality.
Oh,
We'll do
I
voice
just
in a
got
minute.
put down by Greg.
No, I just said not yet.
Hates you.
First things
No,
first.
she hates me.
The things my
Yes,
character
that's
hates
not
are-
true at all.
The characters, the thing I made my character hate are just so
Cool.
So I have a question actually.
Yes, ma'am.
So I saw something on the magic tree, wild magic sorcerer. I haven't really heard of that before. What is that?
So the wild magic, well, wild magic is basically something. Anytime your character goes to use an ability that involves magic, if it rolls a certain way, they have to have a random roll, and some other magical thing will happen on
So
their
it's just
wild magic table.
a sorcerer, but they're bad.
It's more like because they're tapping into powers that they're tapping into a source of power that is unpredictable. So it's like it may be that they're really good at controlling it, but every now and then, because the source of power is unpredictable, you get some sort of random magic effect. So that's what wild magic is, and it comes out in a variety of different ways. Okay, so we're thinking physicality. So just as some examples, so if we were trying to play an old lady around the table, right? It might be like, is she hunched back, like in is it Snow White or Sleeping Beauty? Sleeping Beauty.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true. Is it like, so does she get like that old lady kind of, yes. And we'll talk about voice in a minute, but I usually have a specific voice. We'll do that in a minute. But what does she look like? And then what does it look like when she's really mad, even as an old lady, right? Is she hunched over? And then because of that, like her arms don't go up as high, but she flails about with her wrists. Like, and so I'm at the table trying to like articulate, like she's upset about something and I'm doing this in my chair like that. So what's the physicality of that? If she's an old lady and we're giving her that kind of rolled over back, which isn't necessary, it's an option. I'm caricaturizing on purpose, right? So don't judge me. I'm not stereotyping. I'm just saying it's an option. So if we do that and she's nervous, does she now get smaller even? And does she like start doing the kind of wringing her hands thing, right? Does that make her look almost like a bug or a fly, right? These are things to think about. What are the mannerisms for this specific person and the combination of them? Like, because you might have someone who's not an old lady and still has the other two mannerisms. So they still maybe they're when they're angry, they do large gestures, but because they don't have that curl over, you know, if it's a fighter and they're physically capable and they're young and robust and strong, and so they do it like, they're like doing it like this, where their chest is open and big, like they're about to hit something, right? Oh, I can't believe that this thing happened, right? So that's how you play it in that. What happens when they look nervous? Is it still the hand wringing, or is it that they're tightening their grip on their battle axe or something in nervousness, right? So share with someone near you what your two mannerisms are, the physicality of it.
Did you not get there yet?
I mean, I started with the I say that like it's internal, like it's
they talk with their hands.
I want to say like a nervous tick,
versus the
but
character.
and they're always
Yeah, I've seen engaged.
She made a lot of.
Pick anybody, yeah.
He doesn't really make
It's like they're
facial.
not thinking.
If you're looking at talk, you should like.
Yeah.
His manners. What is
Who'd use
it?
his hands?
When she feels something, she always.
I think I want to make them inspired, but not
Isn't
like
he
a
used
like you're really next person.
But
It's
like if he's like
problems
ass,
with
like
that.
jazzy.
Yeah.
You described it so well.
He's
Even
angry.
though,
My
well,
character
some
was
people have like
making
part of that
mistakes,
vulnerable, like
but it was like
remorse and empathy.
he wouldn't have any facial expression.
This one's just more. I think they're just like.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
don't know. I don't know. I meant to say it's like I don't want it to be. I can't tell. I might have like.
There's gotta be.
Instead of getting
So like this idea of
characters
like,
and not
this
determined.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm really quite conscious, like where I can decide whether or not.
You could
But
tell
that
her
means that like it's like a really rigid
Yeah.
So he intrinsically
So like I'm
trusts the
kind of like
people
in
that are
that state. Like
seem to
that's
be,
just
like,
something I
him
need
and-
more.
Do you want to see my drawing? Greg?
And
Yes.
has to see
My
that
hair
class.
wild
With
source
all
curve
kinds,
states
all
like
those
that.
in, 'cause
He was so assistant.
Oh,
He
he
was
was
walking.
just
He
sort of
was
like this,
a great taught by the
yes.
sorcerers, so he comes into court of
And
while
I think that like just like
And you get more
at least you get that verbal
You see what my
feedback,
character
so you get,
hates?
like, you know, yes approval, you know, like from his like, you know, his
I might
his
just
elders,
like
you know.
he has a humanoid face, but he has wings
or
and
no,
his hands
anything,
are
you know,
like
just at all
scaly with
times,
claws,
so
but he doesn't like that, so
he's showing
he wears gloves.
perfect
I feel like
it'd be cool if
you know,
his hair
to-
were, like,
you know, to
somewhat feathered.
Yeah, I tried to do it with the hair in the back, kind of goes up like a feather. Like hair from his neck kind of goes up like this, like feathers. And it's kind of a feather,
Actually,
but.
This thing is like
I
just like
started from-
I like it came up and started very specific, you know, upbringing.
That's
Throwing sticks when mad,
People like
resting
anything, you'll see it.
Yes.
Me,
My
With face.
Yeah.
or
My character
you know,
had-
It's
or
supposed
just
to
shut
As a
up.
weapon, my character has a
But the
You know,
devil.
like, you know, either like learn to
I think that
Oh, yeah, that's smart.
So,
A nice way of putting it.
so sometimes, depending on whether you just jump into a game and you're not sure about the background,
Maybe in the camera.
okay.
Okay.
Or if you're not sure how it will play out, it's you can go find. You can even like get one of those emotion charts and decide which ones they tend to lean into, and roll a dice and whichever number shows up. But there is a fun. We can draw from a variety of sources anytime we're building characters. And so if you're not sure what the physicality might look like, you might just go and Google what are physical characteristics or mannerisms that people have, and just any list of anything, roll a dice and roll a die. I'm mixing it up. Roll a die, and whatever number shows up down that list, like that's what you pick. If you're like, I can't decide, like part of the fun for me in coming up with non-player characters to on the fly is that there can be a reason for some parts of who they are, but then the other stuff, sometimes the things that players around the table might throw at me is like, well, I don't know, I didn't think about that, so let me roll a dice and roll a die and whatever comes up, that's the thing, and so then I'll play it that way. So it's okay to let some of the choices be random, especially in a game that allows you to explore new combinations. So if you roll a trait and you're like, I don't know how this is going to play out, that's part of the fun sometimes. It's because you are actively discovering how that unique mannerism or might affect the rest of the game. We have, in one game, we have a character who is a bug lady, and she starts a budding romance with a goblin, and he, in trying to woo her, offers her some grubs. Because he has like this whole garden, and he finds out she likes grubs, so he goes over the garden and finds out she likes bugs, and so he's like, here, do you want these? Now it could be that the way that's played, it could be like he's offering it as a snack, or as a pet, and she may not know which. And so if she eats it and he was offering it as a pet, well, now that might create tension in the romantic development of that relationship. But if she's like, ooh, snack, and he is offering it as a snack, well, now that becomes something that like bonds them together. And so sometimes even if it's a random decision, sometimes the play of it comes out. So again, when we're doing the basics of character development in these kind of games, part of the fun is discovering along the way, and really the how it happens. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes left in this portion of this workshop. So I have two things. I'm going to take a moment to anchor this in something that might be other than tabletop gaming. This can be a fun exercise to do to understand people. When we are looking at the hat model, and when we're thinking about how the way someone looks on the outside or speaks, how that communicates to the world around them, like we can do that for famous historical figures connected to any class. We could go and look at famous scientists throughout history. Like one of the big things people comment on Einstein is his hair and the fact that he wore the same clothes every day. Well, that goes back to specific beliefs he has about how he uses his time and creative thinking. He doesn't want to waste cognitive space on things like fashion, so that he can spend it on other things. Like that is like a core ideal you might be able to play in a character. And so it can be fun if you're in any kind of class, whether it's science or history, if you're thinking about political science and politicians, to ask yourself those questions. Well, what are things, and try and do it really as honestly as you can. Like, what are the things that this person hates? Who do they hate? What do they adore? Who do they adore? Who do they trust? And why do they trust that person? Like, that's a model we can do for gaming and a model we can do for the people around us or when we're studying in college. So part of the fun of thinking about this and having a D&D club on a college campus is we get to take these things that we use often for fantasy story development, and there is a direct parallel to understanding the world around us by asking some of these questions too. So keep that in mind. With that, I want to take a couple minutes to talk about the vocalization, like if you've got a voice for a person. And then also I do want to show you some of I want to make sure you get a chance to try and build characters using some of the online tools that people use. So, sometimes for vocalization, it matters to think about how old the person is or what gender the person's trying to present as. And so, or you can ask a number of questions that might affect the vocalization. When I'm looking at introducing characters that aren't humanoids, for instance, like when I've got goblins or lizard folk or things like that, I might think about how their anatomy, their facial structure, and their dental work might affect the way they talk. So if I've got a lizard folk, like the first time I had to play a lizard folk person, I was, when you see pictures of them, you kind of get this image of like Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex or Velociraptor. And so for me, I'm like, okay, well, they have very minimal lip going on. They're not given any lip, even if they're sassy. Sorry. It's terrible. But so they've got very minimal lip and they've got a lot of teeth. So I'm like, well, what would it, like, if that's your face, like how, like, and in movies like that, like the dinosaurs are always like drooling, or the monsters are always like drooling on people. Like it's because they don't have anything to hold the drool in. So when I'm going to vocalize that physically, like my lizard folk usually like have something like this, you know? And so I'm trying to talk like this and so they end up getting like a little bit of a lisp. So everybody try that. Like just pull your lips tight, kind of stick your teeth out a little, and then try and say like some cool tagline. Like it's hard to take this person seriously, right? and so that's why you can either make them silly or intense and scary. To make them silly, you kind of give them a little more like flightiness to their voice, like you give them a little squeak or like a come on. Like you can say, come on, you guys. And it's like, come on, you guys. Right? And it's like just breathing and keeping the slobber from falling out of your mouth. It's the snack in the back of the teeth, the mouse, for a lizard. But just trying to keep the saliva in while you're playing that character becomes its own shtick and a part of the embodiment and vocalization that's unique now to that character. We'll talk about some of the strategies for holding voices in the linguistics-based workshop at 2:30. But the short version is like, but everybody try that. Try and say, come on, you guys, with your lips tight and your teeth sticking out. Everybody, it's part of the workshop. You've got to try it or I won't tell your teacher you were here.
Oh, God.
Come on. So it could be, is it an old man? Come on, you guys. Right? Or is it a scary one? Right, Gaston in lizard folk form. Right, so we can shift depending on what. Did everybody try that? I feel like.
I did.
Right. If everybody does it at the same time, no one will feel embarrassed. So you can close your eyes. So get your lips and teeth in position.
Nope.
1, 2, 3, go.
Nice.
All right, maybe it's okay. It's okay. I'm not actually forcing anyone to do anything. Even with a mask, it can work really well. Actually, it's probably easier to do that particular voice from behind a mask and gives it its own texture. Something you can add to gameplay is wearing masks for the different characters. I almost brought. I'll bring it Tuesday and Thursday. My daughters made a dragon mask for their Halloween costume. And so like wearing a mask can be part of it. If you wore a traditional like COVID style mask, you can make it like you are almost like the Aiel if you're doing Wheel of Time, but or like a Middle Eastern person with a face covering. Like that's going to change the way the sound comes out. You just have to make sure you're projecting loud enough for the table to hear, but it's going to change how they're perceived too. So those are meaningful things. So I always encourage people to try different vocal settings. And so think of a tagline for your character. This is one thing I always, to get into the voice of your character, what is one tagline for this character? It could be based on what they hate. Like what's a line? What's like a line they're going to say a lot? Could be their name. Could be something, I love puppies, right?
I hate
Bugs are beautiful, right? But what's their tagline? Write it down if you can. Let's see if I can get this to... Oh, that is working. Okay. I couldn't tell. Did you come up with your tagline? Okay. So sometimes when I'm trying to come up with voices, and some people have heard me do this shtick or spiel before, I will take their name and something about them. So I had a halfling who was a bard, which is someone who sings songs, and he specialized in light and healing and music. Like those were his spells. He could light up a place. He could play music to make people happy. Or he could heal them, like those. And so, but he's a halfling. And so I was driving to my first session and trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to vocalize his introduction? And so I'm like, well, what's his name? And so I had to come up with his name. And so I wanted something that was musical. So his name's Canto Reed Whistle. Because canto's like Latin or French for song or Spanish for song. And so I ended up with this halfling bard who likes singing and spreading light and love. And so his introduction was, so I used his introduction to get my mouth into the place where I could talk like him so that I could hold the voice. And so his voice goes, Cantor Reed whistle at your service. Just wanted to spread a little light and love through the world with me music and me magic, right? So he sounds like a leprechaun. But now that when my voice is then positioned, I get my facial structure kind of in the place to do that introduction, that tagline. Now I can dialogue in character because my voice is already kind of intoning or in the right position for it. And so you can use taglines for characters to vocally embody them. And so if you think Lady and the Tramp, the gopher, he's known for his whistle and saying sunny. So it's like, sunny, right? I've got a lot of work to do, right? Or we can get into Elmo mode, like Elmo says, right? And we can do that, right? We can
get into Kermit
the Frog here, right? And so we
You have to say that.
So if I say Kermit the Frog here, and now coming to you live on site, but I've put my face into this particular voice, so now I just sound like Kermit the Frog all the time, and I'm a journalism major, and so Kermit here, and I'd like to talk to you today about something terrible in our community. Right?
Can we keep getting?
Right?
Yeah.
Kermit's voice.
No. No, I won't. I swear. It's too tempting.
Got me hooked. What's happening?
Maybe that's what, if I get to 415 subscribers, I will do a whole segment in Kermit the Frog on it. How about that?
I need
Yes.
Because I'm at 410 right now. So there you go. So, anyway, it's the QR code on the back of the file. But that is like, we want to, some of the things that do project personality and behavior are the physicality of a person and the way we sound. And for right or wrong, like whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, some people do it. You know, if you want to take from an old proverb that's more in the spiritual realm, like there's an Old Testament verse that says the Lord looks on the heart, but people look on the outward appearance. And so there's this, like, we'd like to all assume that we're looking at the deeper person, and when we think about characters, we're thinking about the deeper person. But when we're role playing or when we're being ourselves, like there is a part that research tells us about language and psychology and social behavior, that there are some things that people notice or assume about us depending on how we look or sound. There's a reason why people can sound more authoritative if they inflect their sentences down. That sounds like a more trusty thing. Like, than if I said, there's some people who say if we inflect our sentences up, that's a thing, right? And now it sounds like a question. So if we're like, well, I'm not sure my person's very confident, my character's very confident, we can inflect up. And so as we learn more about language or how people respond to it, we can actually draw that into how we develop our characters. Okay, so with that, we got just a couple minutes left. So these are things, so we want to think about how they look and how they sound and how they dress. And if there are any artifacts connected to them, it could be, do I have a special sword? Not that it's powered mechanically, but does it look a certain way? Is it textured a certain way? If you think Minecraft, did we skin it a certain way, right? So if we're thinking of avatars and things, like, is there a certain way that I'm texturing or coloring my character, even if it doesn't change the mechanics of the game? For instance, like in D&D, a short sword and a scimitar have the same stats. They're a d6 to do damage, and they both are a scimitar is like the curved Arabic sword you see in Aladdin,
I see.
versus a short sword, which is more the English, European straight sword, and then a broadsword is like the Roman wide straight sword. So there are all these different. That's a whole other thing. But depending on what you're trying to say about your character, you could flavor it either way. Like both of those weapons have the same stats. You could decide to do something completely different that's not in the book, but say, well, how I'm doing it, I'm going to use the stats of this, but when I describe it to other people, it's going to look like this. So.
And it might play the gameplay, like you have like a case where you have oversized clothing, and might get caught on things.
Yes.
Like,
So, and that's where it's like, if you are trying to be stealthy, but you're someone wearing a lot of armor and you roll a nat 1, it could be your armor. If you're someone who doesn't wear a lot of armor and you get a nat 1, it could be like, well, what is it that is unique about your person? Like, and how can we pull that into the scene and make it more meaningful? All right, so last thing before we end this with a couple minutes left. So I told you guys fast character, so I'll introduce you to that over here on the screen, if you can even see it. So if you look on this, can I make it bigger? So they have a variety of things here. You can look at other systems, the new Marvel Universe, Multiverse RPG. But if you're doing D&D, you're either doing the 2024 version or the 2014 version, which some people call Legacy, which makes me feel like an old man. But I did turn 40 this year, so I guess this is what an old man looks like. But we do, for the D&D Club, we tend to lean toward the 2014 rules just because not all of us have started engaging with the more recent rules. So if you click 2014 and then you can scroll down, some of the decisions you've already made, and then others you could let it fill in for you. This is a situation where I've put myself where I can't see things. So you could go ahead and put in, have it create a random name for you. You can choose a particular race or background as you like, or you can let it select for you and then think about what that would look like. You can choose gender. Level is going to be determined by the game you're playing and the dungeon master where they're telling you to start. So the one who's running the table and setting up the scenes for you, they may say we're all starting at level 3, so you might have to do that. Now, fast character is a great quick character generator, but it doesn't save the information once it creates the character. So you can create a character sheet very quickly, like 10 seconds, click, 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 click. But you need to screenshot that, and I can't remember if you can actually get it in an editable form or not. Then the other option for generating a character is D&D Beyond. This one takes a lot longer, but it's the kind of thing that you do when you're really planning on being part of an ongoing long campaign. What? Where am I? I can't see. Am I? Is it this? It's probably the part I can't see, right? If there's like a sun shininess. This is excellent.
Yes.
Right there.
Down once. Go up a little bit.
Up a smidge.
Oh, I see. Okay, there it is. Go team. All right. I can't remember if I actually. So you can use the D&D character creation tool in D&D Beyond. It will guide you through a lot of the materials. The challenge with that is it will not give you access to everything that the game has to offer because you have to pay for the online resources. So sometimes I do fast character or I'll use a program called Roll20 depending on what's going on. But even then, there are options that you can only access on D&D Beyond if you have paid, and the fast character has its own other challenges. So deciding how you want to build your character technologically, like you can do all the math on paper, or you can do fast character generator and transfer some things over. I personally, when it comes to starting actual character stats, I like rolling my dice myself either way. So if you wanted to know, here's how you, the coolest way in my opinion, and there are a couple other ways. Roll 4d6, get rid of the lowest, and re-roll ones is how I usually start character generation. So that gives you, and you do that 6 times to get each of the 6 main abilities that a character will have. That's the fast version. So I will say we're in this space again and at 2:30, so I'm not like leaving. So with that, what questions does this bring up, especially for those who don't have a background in it, so or have less of a background? Like, what's your next thing in your mind, or what would you want or need from here? Do what? What was it? Oh.
A burger.
A burger? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have dinner for us yet. So Morgan, anything? Audrey? Okay, so what would it take to get you into a D&D game at this point? You're like, my teacher would have to give me bonus points. What? That is? Well, this is a specialized workshop that is meant to kind of walk you through the process. But I'll say, if you showed up, like I've run games for 3-year-olds and 63-year-olds, and so who have no background, right? And the 3-year-old, I'm like, okay, you're a giant spider. The giant spiders can bite, shoot web, or climb up a tree and hide because they have spidey legs. And my 3.5-year-old, she goes, I want to say, and like she was very verbal for a 3.5-year-old, admittedly. She said, so she said, I want to say, and I can't remember what she said. But I'm like, okay, what does that sound like in spider? And she goes, right? And so like a 3-year-old can do it. And you know, she didn't have the maturity that you have and the social skills that you have. But if you showed up with no background knowledge, that'd be fine. And so because it's really, we try and make sure everyone at the table, especially if they're part of the club, is supportive. Like all of our game runners are generally supportive, even if there's like playful banter like you saw here. Like if you show up into the club and you jump in on a table and you're new, like everyone around the table will be trying to support you and ask you like what you want, that kind of thing, almost unanimously. And so if you jump into a game and you're not sure, you can always ask and say, I'm not sure what my character would do. Like, do I roll a dice for this? The game's actually set up where whoever's like the game master will be like 30 seconds of like, here's the scene. You know, you all are standing outside of a castle. You're supposed to be sneaking in to get this object from an evil wizard. So what do you want to do? And based on how you think your character might try and enter the castle, or whether they're going to try and run away, you know, like I don't want to be here, I'm scared. Like they would have you make a roll. You'd roll and add whatever bonus your character has, and then we'd see how it went from there. And you just kind of do that cycle over and over again. They set a scene, you say what you think your character would try and do, and then you roll dice to arbitrate that. So that's the short version of the game. And you just do that for fun around the table until you run out of time. The story can just keep going.
If you wanted to show up on a Monday or Thursday at 5:30, there's no pressure. You can hop in, see how you like it.
Some people will watch for a day first before they
Yeah.
fully dive in.
And we have two, I have a bunch of streams, different games I've played online that I've put online. So we've got one that's been ongoing for 1.5 years through the club, and another one that started this semester. If you want to see, that one's new players, the Chaos Crew on Thursdays, and you could go see what new players look like when they're playing, because all that's been for fun, and it's been really hilarious. So, but yeah, so it is a great way to think about the implications, and so depending on what type of STEM major you are, it could be a fun way to expand the horizons or brainstorm new technologies and things. But other questions generally about character development from anybody else?
No.
Okay. So at 2:30, we've got the workshop specifically on like a crash course in linguistics and how that might change vocalization of characters. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. And if you did need credit or time or wanted to show a professor that you were here, I think you can go and just share the link to the live stream to show you were here the whole time. Or you can take a selfie with us all, whatever you think your professor would like. Oh, yeah. Thank you for having those. And I do apologize. In my head, I thought I was prepared, and paper and pencil should have been on the list.
What about the sign-up sheet? Are you
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
email us?
So if you've signed up there, I can email you the stream and some resources, and just say thanks for coming. Yeah,
Awesome.
proof that you were here.
And go on to I'm sure you can.
Here
Oh, there it is.
Nice.
Where do you go? Oh, you're right there.
Here you go.
Oh, thank you. Maybe 45 15 sounds right.
Oh my god.
I wrote my character's line.
We also have.
Oh, I feel really bad.
Oh,
And no other thing.
So it might.
somebody hates.
That one usually ends up being.
Oh.
I came up with
I'm gonna try and walk through how you might.
the Doomsday Cultist halfling.
Oh, my guy's a human fighter.
But if you have, if you having the defensive
Three.
for you.
Did you ever watch Current Invasion?
No.
Oh, Shonen Jump, like the little slugger.
No, that's not why.
I know.
So I said, I hate saying chats.
So now, like,
No, it's more than no.
All these cool kids.